Good to have you here with us. I'm always afraid one of these Wednesday nights I'm going to be by myself. So I'm glad somebody else showed up. This evening, we are in the book of Ruth. So Ruth chapter 3. Really, what it boils down to is chapter 3 just sets up chapter 4. Okay? But I still think that there are some things we can obviously take from this evening, and so we're going to walk our way through these verses. Just a real quick recap, though. Chapter 1, chapter 2. If you remember back in chapter 1, the characters Elimelech, Naomi, their two sons, due to a famine, they decide to leave Bethlehem, and they're going to make their way to Moab, a place that was no doubt forbidden. It was because the people there, not because of the people themselves, but because they're not Christians, they're not followers of God. And so they're going to make their way there, though, looking for food, trying to find work. When they get there, Elimelech would die, pass away, and obviously this caused some issues in and of itself. And the two sons would marry Moabite women, which again was forbidden, something that was not supposed to happen or take place because this made them unequally yoked. All right, the two boys would then pass away and die. And if you remember, Naomi decided, well, I'm going to return to my people. And the idea there for return was I'm going to return to God. I'm going back. I'm going to do what is right, going back to my people. She tells her two daughter-in-laws, look, you're not obligated to go with me. Nothing's holding you down. You can go back to your family. One of the daughter-in-laws is like, no big deal, I will. The other says, no, today your people are my people, your God is my God. And she at that moment becomes a Jew, and she follows Naomi back to Bethlehem. The only reason they would go to Moab is for one purpose, Ruth. Okay? Ruth is now brought back at this point in time to Bethlehem. They get there, it's the harvest season, if you remember. So people are starting to reap the harvest, the grain, and this was so critical. Obviously, nothing's just happenstance in this story. Naomi would give Ruth instructions on what she needed to do. You need to go out into the field for food, glean. She would rest. She would stay back behind the workers, pick up whatever was missed, whatever was left behind, skipped over. Orphans, widows, the poor could do this, and in order to survive, it was the law. And so she would go out, she would glean, she would make her way maybe into this field, and then maybe into another person's field, and here and there, and lo and behold, she just happens to land in the field of Boaz. And so, no happenstance, but I'm just kidding when I say that. She lands in Boaz. Boaz takes notice of her. She's probably pretty, but he wants to know who she is. And one thing leads to another. He doesn't even hesitate to welcome her in, even though she's a former Moabite. He welcomes her in. It blows her mind that somebody like Boaz would even have anything to do with her at this moment in time. He gives her food. He gives her lunch for that day, enough lunch for that evening for Naomi, as well as food for 2 weeks. And that night when she shows back up at the house, Naomi said, how's your day? And she goes into detail, said, I met this guy, and you're not going to believe it. He did this for me, did that for me. And Naomi's like, well, what's his name? Boaz. His name happens to be Boaz. And she's just astonished. Are you kidding me? How in the world? This is a kinsman redeemer. This is part of Elimelech's family. It's really, really, really big deal. And so now they've met one another, okay? And this brings us to chapter 3 this evening. Naomi will now give Ruth advice, really, on how to propose to Boaz. Okay, strangely enough, this Moabite, how to propose to Boaz. Chapter 3, verse 1, it says, one day Naomi said to Ruth, my daughter, It's time that I found a permanent home for you so that you will be provided for. Okay, Naomi gives her some advice, solely motivated. She loves this woman. She treats her daughter-in-law like it is her daughter. She's concerned for Ruth, for her security, for her well-being. There's two things that they're both missing: family and food. Family, a husband, food, work, a way to provide. And so she sees this. Your Bibles, your translations may use the word rest there, and that is the benefits found in marriage. This idea of rest, security, protection is what the husband would provide, and she knows she needs this. I'm getting older. Ruth needs to marry. It was customary for parents back then, particularly during the time of judges, when the judges ruled and reigned, that parents would arrange the marriages in a lot of cases. And that's kind of what you see Naomi doing here. She's like, boy, this is a catch. This is it. This could really, really work out. You know, I know this would never work, but in my line of work, I see it all the time. Working with college students, I do at least one or two weddings every summer. And I'm telling you, I think parents oftentimes could choose a better spouse. And I see it quite frequently. I've been asked several times by students, would you do our wedding? And nope. I mean, I've made some people furious. No, I don't want any part of that. I mean, having at my age and seeing them and their lives, and it's like what they're doing, what they're participating in. It's like, no, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of that. I had one guy that asked me to do his wedding, and Anna and I, Anna was just, as a matter of fact, she turned red and walked out of the room. But he said, will you do my wedding? And I said, no. I won't do your wedding. I'll do you one even better than that. I won't be there. I won't show up for your wedding. And he got aggravated and mad, but his marriage lasted for 1.5 years. He got a divorce. And just like at my age, like I could just see these things happening. I told one couple that I would do their wedding for them. About midway through pre-marriage counseling, I said, I'm out. I don't want any part of this. And they got mad at me, but about 2 weeks later, they broke off their engagement. About 6 months later, it was around Christmas, this car follows me home one day. I turn in my driveway. This car pulls in behind me, and this girl gets out. It's her. She runs up to me, puts her arms around my neck, and just over and over, she says, thank you, thank you, thank you. Over and over. And she wound up getting married, and now she's in ministry. Her husband's a youth minister, and quite frequently she'll just text me send me a message, thank you. It's out of the blue, thank you. And it's like as you get older, you kind of see these things, and I'm not even their parent, but it's like I can see it. And that's what Naomi's doing here. It's like this is a catch. I could see this. I could see this working out. Verse 2, Boaz is a close relative of ours, and he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. It's just a part of that sovereign picture of God being in control, his purpose, his plan, from gleaning in the fields to meeting Boaz that happens to be a relative, a candidate to marry Ruth. Perhaps Naomi here, she's kind of interpreted everything that's going on. This guy's interested in you, Ruth. I mean, he's actually, I think, from everything I see, from everything that's going on, I think he's interested in you. Women have this intuition. I joke about it all the time. My wife, my mom, same way, but my wife It is amazing to me the things that she can see that I don't. And she's all the time telling me that in our ministry, that guy, he likes her. How do you know? He does. She likes him. How do you know? Did she say something? She does. I just know. She's done it throughout my entire life in other situations that I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful for. There's been a couple of times in our marriage where she's not jealous. My wife's not the least bit jealous, but she would tell me, Van, you need to be careful when you're around that woman. You need to be careful. And in one case, in one instance, I remember saying, I've known her my entire life. Went to elementary school with her. Van, you need to be careful. Come find out, 15 years later, she was right. No, it didn't have anything to do with me. But I mean, she was right. And she's told me that about people in ministry, pastors. Need to be careful around him. I don't trust him. Years go by. She's right. It's kind of what you see here. Naomi, she sees everything happening, what's going on. It's like, Ruth, I believe he's interested in you. Boaz would be winnowing barley in the threshing floor. The threshing floor, without going into a lot of detail, was strategically a building placed on top of a hill, almost like a barn with an opening that goes all the way through it that would catch the wind, and they would beat the barley and throw it up in the air. The shaft would blow away, the barley would fall. And so Naomi knew that Boaz would spend the night there. She's sharp. She knows what's going on, and that's where he'll be tonight. Look at verses 3 through 5. Now, do as I tell you. Take a bath, put on perfume, dress in your nicest clothes, and then go to the threshing floor. But don't let Boaz see you. Don't let him see you until he has finished eating and drinking. Be sure to notice where he lies down. Then go over and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do. I will do everything you say, Ruth replied. You get to see this plan now put in place. Ruth is told, fix yourself up, put on your beautiful dress, garments, but literally sneak up there and hide. You don't want him to see you, okay? You don't want anybody else. There'll be other people there. You don't want them to see you. She's told to wait until he has eaten. He drinks and he's comfortable. He's in good spirits. He goes to sleep. And you just imagine this woman hiding. I mean, like a creeper. Hiding, trying not to be seen by these people, trying to go through with what she has been told by Naomi. Ruth is told to uncover Boaz's feet, lie down, and wait for a response. Now, she gets a little off the path with that in just a moment, but he lie down at his feet, wait for a response. And it's kind of funny there, verse 4. I was just thinking about this today. Be sure to notice where he lies down. Honey, you don't want to uncover the wrong man's feet. It's a big deal. What you're about to participate in is a big deal. You want to make sure you do it right, okay? And so, some interpret this lying undercover his feet, lie down, like sexually, something that goes on here, and there's no indication of that whatsoever, none. For one thing, Naomi would probably not have ever even thought about suggesting something like that to Ruth, because at this point in time, Ruth is a virtuous woman. That's the way people consider her. High moral standards, character. As we'll see in verse 11, worthy. Okay, so the chances of her suggesting something like that are really none. Plus, as you continue to read this here in just a moment in verse 7, to me it's pretty clear she's actually laying at his feet. And as you continue on through, she's laying at his feet. And so I just don't see that whatsoever. Ruth consents to follow the advice that Naomi has given her. Again, you find this young lady walking by faith. This is purely faith, particularly for a Moabite. A woman from that background going through with this. I don't know, maybe after being given instructions before to go and glean in the fields and that worked out. I mean, maybe that's built her faith and this is, maybe this has gotten a little bit easier. I don't know. But I do know that she's been asked to do something that for her and from where she was from was really strange. And yet she does what she is told to do. And if you think about it, God asked you and I to do some pretty weird things as far as the world's concerned. It tells us to love your neighbor. Love your enemy. Give. Your time, yourself, your energy, your income. Give. I mean, from the world's perspective, that is really, really strange. And yet as followers of Christ, that's what we're called to do. And so as strange as this may seem, she goes through with it. All right. We see in verses 6 and 7. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. After Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he lay down at the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and would lay down. She lays down at the feet. She follows the instructions of Naomi, goes down to the threshing floor, hides, goes according to her mother-in-law's instructions. She waits until Boaz has eaten and drank. He's in good spirit. She softly, gently uncovers his feet and lies down at his feet, and I'm sure thinking, please, God, please. I hope she's right. Hope she's right. Verses 8 and 9. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm your servant Ruth," she replied. "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." At midnight, he's startled by a woman lying at his feet. Who is it? Ruth identifies herself. And by the way, she's supposed to, if you remember, wait for a response. Tell him who you are. Wait there. Wait for a response. Boy, Ruth, talk about bold. She identifies herself and then makes her plead. Take your maidservant under your wing. What your translation may sing, or the New Revised Standard Version, spread your cloak over your maid. She's really forward here. In that region, all of this was a symbolic picture of marriage. Back in chapter 2, last week, verse 12, Boaz said to her, after he had accepted her in, "May God cover you with his wings." Now she's asking Boaz to do the same thing. Picture of marriage. You're the close relative to me. You can fulfill the law of marriage in the book of Deuteronomy. You can marry me. We'll see here in just a second, verse 12, there was one more, though. There was one problem, one that was closer of kin. I'm going to read several verses here, verses 10 through 15. "The Lord bless you, my daughter," Boaz exclaimed. "You are showing even more family loyalty now than you did before. For you have not gone after a younger man, whether rich or poor. Now don't worry about a thing, my daughter. I will do what is necessary, for everyone in town knows you are a virtuous woman. But while it is true that I am one of your family redeemers, there is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. If he is willing to redeem you, very well, let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you myself. Now lie down until morning. So Ruth lays at Boaz's feet until the morning, but she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other, for Boaz had said, "No one must know that a woman was here at the threshing floor." And then Boaz said to her, "Bring your cloak, spread it out." He measured 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and placed it on her back, and then he would return to town. So Boaz responds, and it's kind of crazy the way he responds here, because it's almost like he's honored. He's astonished that this young, beautiful woman wants anything to do with him. He's older. He says, "You showed more kindness at the end than at the beginning," meaning it was pretty amazing what you did for Naomi. But now, I mean, this is really amazing. You could have any guy you wanted, and yet you're pursuing me. Because really, Ruth's not looking for a boy. She's looking for a godly man. That's all she's looking for. You know, again, it's something my wife and I tell these students all the time, particularly in America today. Most people's relationships and even marriages are based on, the foundation is based on looks. That's all that matters is looks. And obviously we know from Hollywood that doesn't work. It's seeking. Anna always says this, and I don't know if she read this or what, but it's like you're chasing after God, eyes focused on God, and you just happen to look over and you see this man or woman running along beside you. Eyes on God. That's who you want. That's what you're looking for. Not just solely based off of looks. She's looking for a godly man. That's what she wants. And Boaz is for sure a godly man. Boaz is concerned about preserving her honor here in this passage. He wants to fulfill her request. He says, "My goodness, yeah, I'd marry you. Everybody in town knows you're a virtuous woman, a woman of high moral standards. That's what I want, someone with character. For sure, I would marry you." Yet, goes back, yet there is a man that's closer to you in kin than I am. Boaz said, I've got to give him an opportunity. So many hurdles here in this story, you know. It's like, it just seems almost impossible that this could ever work out. But then again, nothing is impossible with God. And he says in these, Boaz is saying, "I'll do it. I don't have a problem at all. But I'm going to talk to this guy first." Again, a worthy man of character. Over and over again. Always wanting to do what was right. He might have been able to get away with this and think, well, we'll deal with the consequences afterwards. It's like, no, I'm going to do what's right. And it's so hard to come by in this day and time. It doesn't matter if there's people around or if you're just by yourself and nobody knows but God. I'm going to do what's right. Plain and simple. And that's what you see in this man. What a couple. Boaz again is looking out for her reputation by having her stay until the morning rather than having her leave during the night like she's sneaking off or something, you know. And so he wants her to stay until the morning. And then he gives her all of this barley and so that she might not go home empty-handed to her mother-in-law. And a gift, a huge gift here. I mean, actually, this came up to like 35 gallons of barley. This is unheard of. Not only could they eat it, a lot of money to make from this as well. A lot of ideas of significance behind this. Was this like a bridal gift in a sense? A message to Naomi. It was one thing I read, a message intended for Naomi, recognizing her part, or to secure her consent to this marriage. Maybe letting her know, hey, listen, I've got the capability to take care of Ruth and you. Maybe a cover-up for Ruth. She's been there all night. Hey, she was working. She's got all this food, this barley that she had worked for. Maybe just a gift. Either way, the grace of God. God pouring out His grace again on Ruth. Last couple of verses here, verses 16 through 18. When Ruth went back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "What happened, my daughter?" Ruth told Naomi everything that Boaz had done for her. And she added, "He gave me these 6 scoops of barley. Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed." Then Naomi said to her, "Just be patient, my daughter, until we hear what happens. The man won't rest until he has settled things today." Ruth returns to Naomi, reports what's happened. Ruth tells all that Boaz had done for her. Talks about the scoops of barley, and I can just see Naomi's eyes lighting up. And in that, I don't believe it's like, okay, we've got a lot of food, we're going to make some money off this. I think it's like, yeah, I knew. I could tell. I knew this guy liked you. It's written all over his face. Naomi advises Ruth to wait and let's see how things turn out. You know, the waiting. And see, it's so easy to just kind of read through this and just kind of miss. You know, you read it, you don't think anything about it. But it's very possible that she would have had to have married another man she'd never even met before. It's just the waiting, and we've all been through it. Hard, patience. We spend most of our lives waiting in lines and traffic, filling out a job application, wondering what's going to come from it, going to the doctor and having a test run, waiting on the results. Just the waiting. I've said this so many times, but I'll never forget at the age of 16, we thought that I had melanoma, and they had to do surgery and sent the test off to Vanderbilt. Back then it took like 2 weeks to get back, and fortunately it wasn't, but I've never forgotten that. 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. Every time I hear of somebody now dealing with something like that, it just makes me cringe because it's been 32 years ago. I remember everything about it. That waiting. The waiting period. And yet we have to learn to trust God and again, His timing. Never early, never late. Just perfect. It's always perfectly on time. And that's what they're waiting for here. Confident that Boaz will act immediately on this and try to make everything right. You know, it's tempting to view Naomi as kind of like a matchmaker. And she certainly had given her plan some thought. But you know, we as Christians, we're not called to just sit back and do nothing. We do what we can in life, whatever it is, school, work, sports. I mean, whatever we're doing, we do what we can. And that's what Naomi did here. But then the rest is up to God. It's in His hands at that point. It's what Solomon said. It's all right to set out a path for your life, have some goals. It's all right. Just remember God directs your steps. And it very well may change throughout the course of life. Naomi would correctly anticipate Boaz's response. Definitely, I would say, a risky proposal. A lot of chances here. But God's will be done. Again, I think of these two people, this couple. I mean, you don't have a clue how it turns out until next week. But I think of this couple, a godly couple, Ruth and Boaz. My goodness, two people of character, wonderful reputation, match made in heaven. But you know, one other thing that I even thought about, the integrity of Boaz made it possible for Naomi to plan this risky proposal. Think about that. She knew Boaz so well. She knew he's going to do what's right. That's big. I've watched that guy. I know his character. I know he will do what's right. And I think about that with you and I, the benefit of having integrity. There's no doubt the benefits that may come from that we never even think about, but somebody knows us, they know our character, and so there are opportunities that come from that because people are like, that guy's going to do what's right. No matter what, he's going to do what's right. And so we have to just ask ourselves, I mean, does that describe you and I? Good reputation, integrity, high moral standards, character. All of these things that describe these two. You know, you never hear from Ruth or Naomi again. They're out of the picture. Now their names will be brought up. But they're no longer a part of this play come next week. But you have to remember, this whole story is a small part of a big picture, a big plan. This just a tiny, tiny part. This is all leading to Jesus. God coming to this earth in the flesh, form of a man, born of a virgin, lived a perfect, sinless life, offered himself as a sacrifice for sin, would die on a cross, buried, raised back to life on the third day, conquering the penalty for sin. This is just a small part of the big plan. And so it is for you and I. The Bible tells us Jesus is coming again. And every single one of us here, there's nothing special about Ruth or Boaz or Naomi or anybody else. Other than Jesus, nothing special. They're just regular human beings. And each one of us here tonight, we've got a story, a part that we're playing in this play. Jesus is coming. How are we living our lives at this moment? What does our story look like? This is what people see when they look at us. Integrity, character, godly man, a godly woman. Because people are watching. Everything that we do always has an influence on other people. People are watching, and we're just a part of this skit till Jesus returns. Let's pray. Father, I pray that we don't take this lightly. It's so easy to read through these books and just miss the fact that these people are not superheroes. They're just like us. So God, I pray that each one of us here at this church at Mile Straight, we seek to honor and glorify you in our lives each and every day. We want to be people of integrity, character, good reputation. God, we're a small part of your plan, your story. And so I pray that we seek to honor and glorify you in everything that we do until we one day see you face to face. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.